was only like 10. It happened, there was a point where I was being taken advantage of sexually because I was comfortable because I thought I'm a cousin, And then the last episode was when I decided, you know what, I am burning this. I cannot do this. I burnt the place down. I broke everything inside the house and I set fire while I was inside the house. And that's where I understood, that's why I got in a situation of girlfriend, boyfriend. It's because of these kind of things where you end up feeling you can't take it anymore. I was born and bred in Alex. Kulawami, I was in an environment where there's ugogo and my mom and Abomalmeba too. My dad, I know my dad is someone that I've been told, okay, now Baba, I remember drips and drabs of him as well, being there in my childhood, very early, young, and then he disappeared. But he was still within Alex, staying in Alex, and I knew, okay, Baba Mumuntu so, but he was just not there. So my grandmother played a big role in being ugogo. And my mom, being ubaba, and then my mom was a mother. So I go to school, I come back, I'm in the house. So I never really got to familiarize myself with Ikaslam during that time of my childhood. And that was in primary. There was a point where I think when I was exposed to being outside, it was because my extended cousins had to come and stay with us. It happened, there was a point where I only understand it now, what it was. At that time, I didn't understand. I was only like 10. And I didn't understand at that time that actually I was being taken advantage of sexually because I was comfortable because I thought I'm a cousin, And then it started like randomly when I'm taking a bath, like, because it was two of them. One of them would just budge in, and he was older because he was in high school at the time. And yeah. And then got to a point where it escalated to molesting. And then from molesting to rape. And then I think that's when I started being I started being mean. Yeah, it carried on for 2 years. And one day, my two cousins, it's telling alo umdala nalo umdala, because lo munye he didn't rape me. He was more of molesting me. So the brother, he decided to just disappear. One day he, as usual, yavuka prepares to go to school, and then azanga saboy wahamba kanjalo. And then kwasala, the little brother, who is almost my age mate, and then he also, after some time, felt like, you know what, telling ugogo wami ukuthi, okay, I can't do this anymore. Mina ngifuna ukubuyela kithi, ngifuna ukubuyela kumamam. They were both never like chased away or, they just decided. But still, those flags were not enough for my grandmother and my mother to see ukuthi something must be off, yeah. So then that's when I got a break from being abused at home. But regardless of being abused at home by my cousins, there's also the other side of abuse whereby I had Malume that was very aggressive, and he was young, and sometimes we alwe, and cause, yeah, he was drinking, he was on drugs, so began to figure alwe, and all of those things. And I would remember, I recall moments where sometimes the noise being amongst bona as my siblings. I would recall myself running into the room or sometimes crying, mabalwa, feeling like maybe mankala, they were gonna stop. You know, I don't understand till this day why benkala, but I would just be scared and just cry. So yeah, and then now I think that's where everything started. The thick skin, having this thought ukuthi I'm gonna depend on myself. Akekho umuntu ozongitshela ngizozimela because akekho umuntu ozongimela. That's where it all started, because when I tried to reach out to my dad, ukuthi okay, since my mom is most of the time never around because of work, maybe my dad, you understand? And he rejected me a lot of times. Umama umuntu ke oshaya naye bekangishaya umama. Bekangishaya, then sometimes bekangishaya in front of them, to a point where every time she would get complaints from a school in Guti, I'm doing well, because I used to be very smart. Academically, I was doing well. So the only problem they didn't understand why was I so aggressive, why did I have a lot of attitude, why I couldn't take orders very well. So my mom would be very angry and she would beat me up and she would cut my hair, and now I have to go to school in bold. So now this adds up to Uktini. Okay, eskolweni, our teacher, by complaining attitude damn, they're complaining about me, my aggression. When I moved into high school, that's where already by that time, like saying nalento le ukuthi akekho umuntu ozongitshela, I have to defend myself, and my parents are just there to make sure I go to school, and after that, I owe them ukupasa. Anything after that, I don't owe them, because into kuphela ngithi naba expectayo without trying to find out what's happening with me. As much as my mom and my grand were there, it was still never enough at that time, because, like I said, my mom was always at work. So it was a thing of both my parents, they just abakwazi ukuba emotionally there for me the way I wanted them to be emotionally there for me. Because like I said, as much as bengihlala nogogo no mama, the mom done in school, there's parents meetings, there's all of these things, functions at school that require parents to attend, and mina, I was that child I was doing so well, but my parents just would never show up. Yazi isikolo sihamba neintanga zakho, abantu ama-classmates, your peers. That's where kuza ini peer pressure. So mangekho esikolweni ngingasafundi from teachers, that would mean thina as abantwana, kids are experimental beings, you understand? They always want to talk about things, they and if you're not getting enough from home, advise us strateni or whatever we find a strateni, kushuthi here, So it just drives you even further out of control, like uvela uphume vele nje endleleni without you realizing ukuthi sowuphumile endleleni because umncane nawe, and having the anger ukuthi ngiyashaya mos kuyafana. So what is the point? Uzongishaya, and induku phela iyajwayeleka, by the way, umuntu mawuloku umshaya induku iyajwayeleka, yabo. So yeah, it impacted, because I never had a relationship with my mom. I never had a relationship with my dad. I never really had a close relationship with family. My grand did try, she did try, but because ukokwami is one, I call her mama, mama mbiza ngegama. Njengoba ngisho ukuthi whatever that I was going through, my environment, it created some sort of bitterness in me, some aggression, resentment. It was just hard. So I was angry. I grew up an angry child. Funny enough, in high school, I was never that girl, as much as I was a rebellious child, I was never that child, nyabanka, a bank school. When it's the time for me to go to school, I did go to school. And then completed my matric. But the problem is I had to do grade 11 3 times. And not because being failure, no. The first year of my grade 11 was because when I failed, it was because I had attitude. And then the second time when I was doing my grade 11 was because my uncle bekangasalwi nabantu angithi endlini beseka physical game, because now umama bekathi makalwa nami angishaya bese ngicala njengoba ngisho bese ngizibona ukuthi ezini, so bengizicala ngizibambela, you know. So ukuzibambela kwami bese bangivuthela umalume. Now umalume nami angishaya yanginyathela yangikhahlela, and with my mom watching there, my grand watching there, you know. And that's when I started now kuba wes, because that's where I moved out of home, because I met a guy and he understood what I was going through, because it got to a point, we started off as friends. It got to a point where I opened up, as in, I'm right. I'm going through this, and this happened. And now I'm facing a situation with manje saying discipline now malume wami. And he advised me, why don't you let them know what happened? And then this one time I remember being in Major League, because they were also against nightlife. So basically nightlife vele. You know? So nightlife, I went to Major League, I remember. And when I came back from Major League, my mom beat me up. She burnt my clothes, all of my clothes. And then Umalumwami, I remember Bambiza, and he beat me up. And then I spoke. I was like, I'm doing all of these things because this and this happened. And now when Funungshai, Wangshai are worse, because now it was a thing of why ukhuluma manje because of uphuma la uphuma khona. Unamanga, hey, they beat the hell out of me. He beat the hell out of me as he had no mercy. So that's when I was like, okay, fine, sharp. They don't believe me. But huleleni, yabona izinto ezikanje. Ayikho lento leyo, namanga lento. Yazi abafana. Yabona ngabuyile. Yabona inkulumo lezo zinjalo, you know. Okay, now I have to, you know, take all of this and just accept it. I mean, I knew one. And then I decided to move out. When I moved out, only to find out with this guy, our relation starting off as friends, escalating to girlfriend and boyfriend. I was still in high school.
So right? What team you come with this guy? With him?
So Gabo, this guy was a dropout, right? This guy already, personally, he had a very rough background. His space, as much as it wasn't the luxury that I was getting from home, the comfortability that I was getting from home, not to be rich or anything, but we could afford. I felt like his lifestyle was much more peaceful for me. It was the first time I feel like umuntu yang protect, umuntu nendaba na, umuntu akafuni nix ngami, umuntu yangicabangela, umuntu supportive, you know, because he would make sure that I'm going to school. He would fetch me from school. So now it happened, now we're staying together and I'm going to school and I'm MIA. Gitsi, they know that I'm dating a certain person, but they were not sure yet to guphi, you know? And I remember they created a poster of me missing. So they did a missing poster in my school uniform. And I'm walking in a school reni, and everyone is looking at me like crazy. And I'm also like surprised what's happening. And then a friend shows me, hey, look, we're Chanda, babes, you're missing, you know? And I felt disappointed because they knew very well who I was with, even though they may have not been sure where exactly, but they knew. So I felt like that was a very drastic move, but I think also it was maybe for ukungifakela amehlo abantu, and maybe I would get back to my senses and come back home. And I didn't. This guy, he had an uncle khona lapha ejaridini lakubo. Umalume wakhe bekumuntu obhemayo, unabangani abaza babhema and all of that, yabo. So environment kamalume, iroom la kamalume, umkhukhu kamalume uhlezi ugcwele amajita amantombazana, babhema rock, you know? And that's where the dealing started, my dealing life started, you know? One of Malume's friend approached Malume saying, you know what, sports are common, sport is not right for a business, you know, and I have a plug, a Nigerian guy that I can plug you with to Stock Rock. And Malume had a good relationship with Nomshana Waki being my boyfriend, then boyfriend. And the proposal he did, and then we agreed. My boyfriend's hustle before that proposal was bekahleza semadayisini, and bekanenhlanhla ukuwina emadayisini, and I was that girl ukuthi ngihlezi naye, like ngihlezi lapha esayidini emadayisini and Knoxman laphayana udlala amadayisi, and I'm just chilling there. I don't have friends. You understand, my life just revolves around this guy and his family. If it's not amadayisi, it was Izinja pit bulls. He was selling dogs. He would have dog fights. We would, you know, but with that, I was also in love with that because already from mina ekhaya, we simkhule kunezinja ejaridini and the love for dogs, you know. So now when the proposal of the selling of Iraq started, came from Umalume and started, we decided to use a space saka Malume khona lapha ejaridini, and umkhukhu kungena umoya, you can literally see the sky outside, and I was sleeping there. I moved from a comfortability agit, and I put myself in that situation, and not only because of what I was going through at home, but also because of I honestly did love this guy. I think this guy was my first. It was the first time I felt, okay, I think I love a guy, you know? So little did I know, Guti, I was going to end up staying with him. It wasn't a thing, Guti, it was planned. Yabo. And then now business is up and running. Siyathengisa manje. So when he's not around, ahambile ayezinjeni, or I have to make sure that I take care of business. And I'm only like 16 at the time. So we would call the supplier and would tell him how much stock we need. And then the supplier would tell us ukuthi uzothumela umuntu sisipotini sikanje nakanje, because we never really met the supplier. The supplier would send abafana bakhe. If kusemini bebakwazi ukuthi baze bazosideliver at our spot. But if kusebusuku, we would go there. But even if we go there ebusuku, we wouldn't deal like with the supplier. We deal with his boys, you know. So already beiza say cut you and packaged, you know. So yeah.
You ran this thing for how long?
For 4 years. We never thought of risks. We never calculated anything, you know. We were after survival because manje sesihlala together, and now okay, we're under pressure because of unabantwana bakuba abancane and baza kuye bazokhalela yena gore abuti silambile asemadayisini. Thola ukuthi sometimes uyadliwa intwana zakhe ziyakhala. So bengiye esikolweni and ngiyazikherisa because of mangibuya straight after school anginasikhathi sokubloma the way abanye abantwana mabaphuma after school isikolo siphelile bayasabloma or umunye usajola lapha ini straight I go back home being at kabo boyfriend yami, and mangifika lapho mele business must run, yabo.
Did
you know.
take the drugs to school as well?
No, that never happened. Yeah, but that's why ngisho ngithi we were still, like, we were never that deep. Yeah, but so for us, our clientele was abangani bakamalume nomalume, because kamalume kuhlala kubhizi.
Trap house.
Yeah, it's a trap house, and we were staying at the trap house. So we never looked into the business needs to venture out and all of that. And then okay, started being abusive towards me. At first, when he beat me up, it was Escalating sakubo, because bengiye camping esikolweni. That was the first time angishaya ngempama, ngawela phansi. You understand? I remember anginyathela. Kaslake, people are looking. His family is there watching. Mama kumile lapha yabhekelele. Bamsaba ngithi in his neighborhood. He was that guy oshaya nayo. Aloka yintwana. So I remember when Amachita, there was a group of, till today, I don't remember exactly what Abubani, but I think Abasekaslake, because remember, when you're in a situation like this, everything happens and you're thinking, yo, my life, I'm dying, you know? I was bleeding and everything, and I remember bambamba sebabona ukuthi manje uyangibulala, because he was bekanginyathela, face bekanginyathela. So when they bambamba, that's when I got the opportunity to ubaleka. I ran away. Ubaleka kwami, I went to umuntu engimaziyo through yena, besinokuya kuye siyophuma khona, ngabalekela lapho. Bangivulela, ngicela amagazi and everything. And I'm crying. Yeah, it's around about like 10. And I'm crying. And bangibona ngilimele and everything. And I was scared, thinking ukuthi still nala ngibalekele khona, because uyazi ukuthi la phela ikaslake ngize ngaye angazi muntu, so he would know ukuthi ngikuphi and uzoza and uzongicedelela. Yebo. So I was begging that couple ukuthi ngicela ningavula umnyango, ngiyanicela, please don't open the door, please, ngiyanicela. That was the first time I reached out to my parents. I called my mom. And then my mom took me Banglanda. They opened a case against him. And remember, I was still a minor. I was not yet 18 at the time. So anything, my parents, I decide in the court of law, justice system in South Africa, it goes as long as we minor. So my parents then decided to go to case up, Bazoville Casey. And I'm in love with this guy, I remember. And now my mom was like, yeah, but I understand those, you know. Okay, fine. Now we're going to court. Now it's affecting school. You understand? It's affecting school during that time.
You're in grade 11 now.
The grade 11. The second one, yeah. It's affecting school. Because of manjimeling love, you understand, all of those things. And then eventually, when we went to court, this guy, I still love him. When I looked at him, I felt like, mara, this guy is agazangshai. Let me give this guy a chance. I don't want to continue with this. I'm phone, you understand? So now, I fought with my mom because I don't want to continue with the case. I needed her to withdraw. And it was withdrawn. Because we went for mediation with both parents and us. And my mom was like, and I was like, nah, I'm cool. As long as I'll keep distance. In fact, I lied. I said I was going to keep distance. Like, we both signaled each other, we're going to do this, you know, just so that we can make sure they get rid of the case and all of that. So it happened. I went back. Now when I went back,
So you went back home or you went back to him?
I went back to him.
To live with him again?
Yeah. Like now the beating started getting, like it was a norm, like it started getting usual for him. And Giti, they didn't feel the need to rescue me again because of they did it and then mina yabo. So and nami bengingasenayo leyo like ukuthi isibindi sokuthi pick up phone and say ish ngiyahlukumezeka so you know, I had to take it because I don't want to, the last thing I want to hear is sakuza saglanda, you know. So I had to deal with it, you know. And I think he did it even more because he knew Uti, I had no one that I could call. That's where now it started to get worse because now he would tell me I'm not allowed to go out. So then I can go outside. So I can't go to school. I can't do anything, you know? I don't go out until Nepal. And no mama family yakhe beyingibona yona ngilimela ngithi ngihlala nabo and they don't say much. Mama yakhe bekangitshela straight uthi msayidi kushapiwa. Yabo. So you understand? So it got to a point where now it was during my final exams, 4th term, and I needed to write. And I missed 2 of my provincial papers, accounting, NEMETS. And that's how I failed grade 11, second time. Because I missed my final exam, because bengilimele nangivalele ngisendlini. When we're in situations, sometimes we don't realize during that time, Guti, it's wrong or it's right. Or sometimes they take time for you to actually realize or see them for what they are, you know? So during that time, whatever that was happening, I felt like, okay, sharp, it was normal. Because of remember, from corporal punishment, mama, to being the beatings I was getting from this guy were the same as malum because so they were the same. So it felt like, okay, kushuthi into normal, you know. And yeah, yabo. And for the fact that they're not reacting, then that means into right, ngizoba right, ngizophola. And I also thought I'd love the abuse out of him. And sometimes makangishayile bekanokuthi avele akhale angitshela ukuthi he's sorry, and I would feel for him. And little did I know he was manipulating me. And I remember there was a time I didn't even know I was pregnant. Because obviously I wasn't going to clinics for contraceptives or anything like that. So every time he would sleep with me, he wouldn't use protection or anything like that. So he beat me up so badly. He took out cable extension. So when he took out the extension, he told me, namhlanje, me and you, we are dying. He wayibophela phezulu wathi gibela la ugibele la uzihenge mina nami ngizozibulala yabo. So I'm like, I was scared. I didn't know how to react to it. I remember, like, the only thing I remember is me just being scared all the time, and I can't really recall the thoughts I was having at that moment during yonke le experience laying benayo in that space, yabo. So he would tell me, "Gutino kibela, nginti kibela," you know. And on that day, I was saved by a lady from around there. Bekadlula kushuthi uzwile noise, yabo. And bebazochecka umama ka guy, cause angibaphuza bonke. So ithe mangathi uyangena should bekakhohlwe ukey ithe mangathi uyangena uyabona intambo and this guy ophethe iweapon ungitshela ukuthi ngigibele yabona lapha ngamtshela no usikayetha ntwe yabo and then fine sharp he said no fine okay sharp I'm not going to do it. And then the lady offered to stay with me there the whole night. So it kept on going on and on and on and on and on to a point where I didn't know I was pregnant and he beat me up and I miscarried at home. And I also didn't even know. Minang mangalenji, you know, with whatever that was coming out of me and inside my body, you know, and I was in pain and both of us, we never thought of it. Like when the miscarriage happened, it didn't happen on when he was beating me up, but it happened on a day where he happy, chabulile, you know, yeah, and we thought it was periods or whatever, you know, but like it was clots and like it was, you know. So now I only realized it later stage in life, actually that day, this is what was happening to me. So yeah. So this life it continued to a point where we made enough money when and we were able to build our own room. Khona lapha ikas like now sesiphuma trap house gamalume sizos akhela yethu indawo and we started building it from scratch. Impilo yami literally stopped and I was living ngesikhathi sakhe impilo yakhe, you understand. If he says, okay, I feel like let me take you out today for pizza, that's when I get to go out. But most of the time I was always in the house, you understand. So I never got to even enjoy my teenage life the way I'm a teenager, friends, in. So now that whole situation with that guy, it added more on me being like a loner. That relationship, it was toxic because there was a point when I can't do this anymore, I'm leaving. He actually drank alpirim. No, he drank paraffin at Bulal. And then the last episode was when I decided, you know what, I am burning this. I cannot do this. And then a whole situation happened where I felt Guti, after everything, you treat me like this, I burnt the place down. I think that was the first time I reacted. When it, like, since this was the first time I reacted. And I think it shocked everyone because I broke everything inside the house. And I set fire while I was inside the house. And when my neighbor I was actually heading out, so there was a lot of smoke, so I could have also suffocated. But I could have been suffocated by the smoke. So I started the smoke and I destroyed everything that was there because I felt I worked for everything that was there. And now, what are you expecting? So that's how I eventually went home. And that's where I understood, that's why I go in a situation of girlfriend, boyfriend. It's because of these kind of things where you end up feeling you can't take it anymore. And just decide I'm going to do this. So going back home, I was taken to boarding school. When I was taken to a boarding school, so that I can be away from okay. Then I eventually just completed my grade 11, and then I finally went to matric, and then after matric, that's when I started my other chapter of my other life.